My name is Amber Wilson, 27, and every morning at 5 a.m. I trade my college degree for a waitress uniform at Wilson's Diner. Not because I failed at life, but because my grandfather Harold needs me. Meanwhile, my brother Marcus cruises by in his shiny BMW SUV designer suit and law degree, making sure everyone knows he's made it while I'm just serving pancakes. What he doesn't understand about family and loyalty could fill his empty corner office. If you're watching this journey of mine, drop a comment telling me where you're from, hit that like button, and subscribe to see how I finally stood up to the brother who thought success only came with a price tag. The ancient alarm clock beside my bed buzzes at 4:45 a.m., a daily reminder of the path I've chosen. I silence it quickly to avoid waking the entire house, especially Grandpa Harold, who needs his rest. My tiny bedroom is directly above the kitchen of Wilson's Diner, our family business for over 40 years, and the lifeblood of our small town of Riverdale, Maine. I splash cold water on my face, pull my honey blonde hair into a practical ponytail, and slip into the familiar pale blue waitress uniform that's become my second skin. Downstairs in the diner kitchen, I flip on the industrial lights and hear the comforting hum of refrigerators and the old heating system coming to life. The smell of the place is embedded in my soul. Coffee grounds, bacon grease, and that indescribable warmth that brings people back day after day. By 5:30, I've prepped the coffee makers, fired up the grill, and started the morning's first batch of Grandpa's secret recipe buttermilk biscuits. It used to be him down here doing all this while I was still in high school, dreaming of becoming a writer. Now his hands shake too much for the delicate work of rolling dough, and his heart condition means he needs to take it easy. "You're up early again, sunshine," Grandpa Harold says, appearing at the kitchen entrance. At 72, his once towering frame has begun to stoop, but his eyes still hold that mischievous twinkle that charmed half the town in his younger days. "You should be resting, Grandpa," I scold gently, wiping flour from my hands to pour him his morning heart medication with a glass of water. "Can't sleep knowing my girl is down here doing all the heavy lifting," he replies, but takes the pills without argument. A sign of how much his condition has progressed. A year ago, he would have stubbornly refused. Harold Wilson raised both Marcus and me after our parents died in a car accident when I was 10 and Marcus was 12. The diner became our home, our school, and our sanctuary. While other kids had soccer practice and ballet lessons, we learned how to balance books and delight customers with friendly banter. But we processed grief differently. I embraced the diner and the community it created, while Marcus seemed to view it as a constant reminder of what we'd lost. Marcus called last night. Grandpa mentions carefully lowering himself onto a stool at the prep counter. Says he's got big news. I keep my expression neutral. That's nice. He's doing real well at that firm in Portland. Partner track, he says. I know, Grandpa. He mentions it every chance he gets. My brother had escaped to an Ivy League college on a scholarship and never really came back except for obligatory visits, where he made sure everyone knew just how successful he'd become. Meanwhile, I put my English literature degree on hold after 2 years when Grandpa had his first heart attack. I told myself it was temporary, but 3 years later I'm still here opening the diner at dawn, while my half-finished novel collects dust on my laptop. By 6 a.m., I flip the sign to open, and within minutes our regulars start trickling in. First is Mr. Jenkins, a retired postal worker, who sits at the same corner booth every day and orders black coffee and wheat toast. Then the Henderson sisters, both in their 80s, who share a full breakfast and gossip about neighbors who've been dead for decades. "Morning, ladies." The usual, I greet them with genuine warmth. "If it isn't our favorite waitress," coos Edith Henderson. "Did you hear about Betty Lowell's grandson got himself arrested for stealing garden gnomes?" This is part of the rhythm of my life. The stories, the familiar faces, the community that's held me together since I was a broken little girl who just lost her parents. It's something Marcus never understood. At 7:30 sharp, Dr. Ryan Thompson arrives for his invariable breakfast. 2 eggs over easy whole wheat toast, dry black coffee, and a side of fruit instead of hash browns. He's new to town, only been coming in for about 3 months, but he's already part of the Wilson's Diner ecosystem. "Morning, Amber," he says, with a kind smile that reaches his hazel eyes. "Busy already, I see." There's something different about Dr. Thompson. He's in his mid-30s, tall, with shoulders that suggest he was probably an athlete in college, and he always has a weathered copy of some classic novel tucked beside him. Today, it's Steinbeck's East of Eden. "Good choice," I comment, nodding toward the book as I pour his coffee. "One of my favorites from my college days." English major, he asks, seeming genuinely interested. Almost. 2 years in, before real life happened, I reply with a shrug. Real life has a way of doing that, he says thoughtfully. But Steinbeck would say there's poetry in diners too. This small exchange brightens my morning as I continue the careful dance of refilling coffees, taking orders, and making sure Grandpa doesn't overexert himself at the grill. It's a system we've perfected. I handle the front, he supervises the kitchen with our cook Jerry, and we keep the heart of Riverdale beating one pancake at a time. Just as the morning rush starts to ease around 9:30, a gleaming black SUV pulls into the prime parking spot directly in front of the diner's large windows. Even if I couldn't see the vehicle that probably cost more than our entire year's revenue, I'd know my brother had arrived by how the atmosphere in the diner shifts, people sitting up straighter, conversations hushing all. Eyes turning to the door. Marcus Wilson has arrived, and, as always, he's made sure everyone notices. The bell above the door chimes as Marcus strides in designer sunglasses perched on his perfectly styled dark hair. At 29, my brother looks like he walked straight off the set of a legal drama. Tailored charcoal suit, burgundy tie, and that perpetual expression of slight disdain for everything around him. Little sister, he announces, loudly enough for everyone to hear, sliding onto a stool at the counter. Still playing waitress, I see. Paying customer, or just here to critique, I respond sliding a menu toward him, even though he hasn't ordered anything different in years. Coffee. Black. And maybe one of those sad little blueberry muffins if they're fresh, he says, making a show of checking his Rolex. Some of us have real meetings to get to. I bite back a retort and pour his coffee, feeling the eyes of the regulars on us. Our sibling dynamic has become something of a local spectacle. The high-flying lawyer and the hometown waitress, oil and water with the same last name. Grandpa's in the back, I tell him. He'll be happy to see you. I'm sure he will, Marcus says with that smirk that makes me want to accidentally spill coffee in his lap. I have some exciting news. As if summoned, Grandpa Harold emerges from the kitchen, his face lighting up at the sight of his grandson. Marcus, what a surprise. They embrace, and I notice how Grandpa's hand trembles against Marcus's perfectly pressed suit. My brother may be many things, but he's gentle with our grandfather, carefully guiding him to a seat. What brings you by on a Tuesday? Thought you big city lawyers worked around the clock, Grandpa jokes. Marcus straightens his tie with practiced precision. Actually, I came to share some news. The firm made me junior partner yesterday. Junior partner, Grandpa exclaims, clapping his hands together. That's wonderful, son. Isn't that wonderful, Amber? I manage a smile. Congratulations, Marcus. That's really great. It comes with a significant salary bump, Marcus continues, clearly enjoying being the center of attention as several regular customers offer their congratulations. I just closed on a new place in Portland's West End. River View's doorman building the works. You know you're always welcome to stay here when you visit, Grandpa says, seemingly oblivious to the subtext. Your old room is just like you left it. Marcus laughs, the sound practiced and hollow. I think I've outgrown bunk beds and high school trophies, Grandpa. But speaking of visits, I'm bringing someone to Sunday dinner. Sophia Chen. She's an associate at the firm Environmental Law Division. Dr. Thompson catches my eye from his booth, offering a sympathetic smile as he witnesses this familiar dance. I've never discussed my brother with him, but something about his expression tells me he understands the dynamic perfectly. That's nice, dear, I say, refilling Marcus's coffee. I'll make sure to prepare enough food. She's vegan, actually, Marcus says, with just enough condescension to make it sting. But don't worry about accommodating. We'll probably eat before we come. She's used to a certain standard. The implication hangs in the air like grease smoke. My cooking the diner our whole life here isn't up to his standards anymore. So how are things here? Marcus asks Grandpa, deliberately changing the subject. Business holding steady. Grandpa's face clouds slightly. Oh, the economy's tough everywhere. But we get by. Just getting by isn't sustainable, Grandpa Marcus says, lowering his voice, but not enough that I can't hear. You should be thinking about retirement, about your health. This place is running you into the ground. The diner's doing fine, I interject, perhaps too quickly. September was actually our best month this year. Marcus raises an eyebrow. Really? Because I took the liberty of looking over the books last time I was here, and the numbers tell a different story. My cheeks burn. You had no right to do that without asking. Someone in this family needs to think about the future, he counters smoothly. Amber, you're wasting your potential here. You could finish your degree, get a real job. This is a real job, I snap, aware that we now have an audience. Of course it is, Marcus says, with fake sincerity, standing and dropping a $50 bill on the counter for a $5 coffee. Keep the change. Consider it my contribution to the family charity case. He kisses Grandpa on the cheek. I'll see you Sunday. We have more to discuss about your future. As Marcus walks out, the sunlight glints off his SUV's polished surface, the engine purring to life like a contented predator. Through the window, I can see him taking a call immediately back in his world where people like me are invisible except when serving him. Don't mind him, Grandpa says, patting my hand. He means well, just expresses it poorly. But I'm not so sure. The Marcus who held my hand at our parents' funeral seems to have disappeared, replaced by someone who sees our family legacy as something to escape rather than preserve. After the lunch rush dies down, I find myself alone in the storeroom, pretending to inventory canned goods while fighting back tears of frustration. The door creaks open and I quickly wipe my eyes. Just checking if you need any help, Dr. Thompson says, standing awkwardly in the doorway. I have an hour before my next appointment at the clinic. We don't need charity, I say, more harshly than intended, immediately regretting it. I'm sorry that was rude. No offense taken, he says, leaning against the door frame. For what it's worth, what you're doing here matters. Community matters. Family matters. His words soothe something raw inside me. Try telling that to my brother. Some people measure success differently, Dr. Thompson says simply. Doesn't make your metrics wrong. As he turns to leave, I find myself wishing for the first time in years that someone else understood what I was fighting for. Not just a diner, but a legacy, a home, and the only real family I have left. Sunday afternoon finds me in Grandpa's kitchen above the diner, sleeves rolled up as I prepare our traditional family dinner. The small apartment hasn't changed much since my childhood. The same worn but clean furniture, family photos covering one entire wall, and the dining table that's slightly too big for the space but accommodates holiday gatherings. Something smells wonderful, Grandpa says, shuffling in from his afternoon nap. His color is better today, but I notice he's using the wall for support more than usual. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, and green beans, I reply, wiping my hands on a dishcloth. And apple pie for dessert. Your mother's recipe, he says with a nostalgic smile. She'd be proud of you, Amber. So proud. The mention of my mother brings a familiar ache. Catherine Wilson had been the heart of this place before the accident, her laugh echoing through the diner as she remembered every customer's name and story. Marcus said they'd be here at 6, I remind him. You should sit and rest before they arrive. I'm not an invalid, he protests, but sinks into his recliner without much resistance. Tell me about that young doctor who's been coming in. He seems to like more than just our coffee. I feel heat rise to my cheeks. Dr. Thompson is just a regular customer, Grandpa. A regular who finds reasons to stay until closing 3 days a week. Grandpa raises his bushy eyebrows knowingly. I wasn't born yesterday, sunshine. Before I can formulate a response, the doorbell rings with an impatient series of chimes that could only be Marcus. Taking a deep breath, I smooth my simple blue dress and open the door. Marcus stands there in casual clothes that probably cost more than my monthly tips, while beside him is a willowy woman with a sleek black bob and perfectly applied makeup. Sophia Chen radiates the same ambitious energy as my brother, from her understated but clearly expensive jewelry to her analytical gaze that immediately takes inventory of our modest home. Amber, this is Sophia Marcus, says, kissing my cheek with practiced formality. Sophia, my little sister. Lovely to meet you, Sophia says, extending a manicured hand. Marcus has told me so much. All good things, I hope, I reply with a forced smile, accepting a bottle of wine that probably costs more than our weekly grocery budget. Well, he mentioned you were quite the academic before you. Shows a different path, she says, her tone, suggesting my different path ranked somewhere between joining a cult and becoming a professional finger painter. Dinner begins with awkward small talk about the weather and local politics, but the tension builds as Marcus dominates the conversation with stories about cases he's winning and connections he's making. We've just put an offer on a vacation property in Bar Harbor, he announces, refilling Sophia's wine glass. Oceanfront private dock. Perfect summer getaway from the Portland heat. Bar Harbor's beautiful, Grandpa says kindly. Though we've always loved Old Orchard Beach for our family trips. Old Orchard is so commercial now, Sophia comments, picking at her barely touched pot roast. All those tourist traps and carnival games. That's where we scattered Mom and Dad's ashes, I say quietly. They loved the carnival atmosphere. An uncomfortable silence follows, broken only when Marcus clears his throat and changes the subject. Grandpa, have you been to your cardiologist lately? You're looking tired. Dr. Feldman says I'm holding steady, Grandpa replies defensively. Just need to watch the sodium and take my pills. And the stress, Marcus adds pointedly. Running that diner isn't exactly low stress at your age. I set down my fork with more force than necessary. The diner keeps him going. It gives him purpose. Purpose won't matter if he works himself into another heart attack, Marcus counters. I've been looking into some excellent retirement communities in Portland. Retirement communities, I echo incredulously. Grandpa's not going anywhere. This is his home. Marcus sighs as if dealing with a stubborn child. Amber, we need to be practical. The diner is barely breaking even. The building needs expensive repairs, and Grandpa needs specialized care. We're managing just fine, I insist, noticing Grandpa's increasing discomfort with the conversation. Are you? Really? Marcus leans forward. Because I've reviewed the books, and you're one major equipment failure away from closing doors. You had no right to go through our financial records without permission, I say, my voice rising. Actually, I do have the right, Marcus replies, coolly. I've had power of attorney for Grandpa's affairs since his hospitalization last year. The revelation hits me like a physical blow. What? Grandpa shifts uncomfortably. It was just a precaution, sunshine, in case decisions needed to be made while I was unwell. And you didn't think to tell me, I ask, hurt radiating through me. I advised against it, Marcus interjects. Given your emotional attachment to the diner, we thought it best to keep things simple. Simple, I repeat. There's nothing simple about going behind my back. This is exactly why we didn't tell you, Marcus says dismissively. You're too emotional to make rational decisions about Grandpa's future. And you're too detached to understand what's really important to him, I counter. Sophia sighs loudly. Marcus, perhaps we should discuss this another time. This family drama is a bit much after a long week. Her condescending tone is the match to my gasoline. I'm sorry our family drama is inconveniencing your Sunday, Sophia. Perhaps next time you can just stay in Portland with your ocean views and doorman. Amber Marcus snaps. Apologize immediately. It's fine, Marcus Sophia says with frigid politeness. I understand some people aren't accustomed to civilized discussion. Grandpa suddenly clutches at his chest, his breathing becoming labored. Please, stop fighting. In an instant, all animosity is forgotten as I rush to his side. Grandpa, are you okay? Where's your nitroglycerin? Bathroom. Medicine cabinet, he manages between pained breaths. I sprint to retrieve it while Marcus helps Grandpa to the recliner. When I return, Sophia is standing awkwardly in the corner, tapping on her phone. This is ridiculous, she mutters as I administer Grandpa's medication. We're missing the symphony for this. Really, I hiss. That's your concern right now. All this stress isn't good for him, Marcus says accusingly. This is exactly why changes need to be made. After a tense 15 minutes, Grandpa's color improves, and his breathing normalizes. I'm fine now, he insists. Just got a little worked up. We're leaving, Marcus announces, helping Sophia with her coat. But this conversation isn't over. I'm taking matters into my own hands for Grandpa's sake. As they head to the door, Marcus turns back with a cold expression I barely recognize. The diner is killing him, Amber. If you really love him, you'll stop being selfish and accept that it's time to let go. The door closes with finality, leaving me alone with Grandpa and the ruins of our Sunday dinner. For the first time, I'm genuinely afraid of what my brother might do next. 2 weeks pass in a strange, uneasy calm. Marcus doesn't return my calls, and Grandpa seems unusually quiet about the whole situation, changing the subject whenever I bring up Sunday's confrontation. But something has shifted in the diner. There's an undercurrent of whispers among the regulars, and I notice unfamiliar faces peering through our windows without coming inside. On Thursday morning, I'm surprised when our breakfast numbers are down by nearly half. Even Mr. Jenkins, who hasn't missed a morning in 15 years, is absent from his corner booth. Slow day, Jerry comments from the grill. Second one this week. When the Henderson sisters finally arrive around 9 a.m., they seem oddly subdued, exchanging glances but avoiding eye contact with me. Is everything okay, ladies? I ask, setting down their usual order. You seem quiet today. Edith Henderson pats my hand sympathetically. Oh, honey, We just heard the news and wanted to see if you were still, if you were still open. News, I repeat, baffled. What news? About the diner closing, her sister clarifies. For the new development. It's such a shame. This place is an institution. My stomach drops. I'm sorry, but what development we're not closing? The sisters exchange another worried glance. But the newspaper. At that moment, Dr. Thompson enters looking unusually somber. Instead of taking his regular booth, he approaches me directly, a folded newspaper in hand. Amber, have you seen this? He asks quietly, opening to page 3. The headline feels like a physical blow. Historic Riverdale block sold for luxury retail development. Below is an artist's rendering of a sleek shopping complex, where our diner currently stands, along with the neighboring hardware store and bookshop. This isn't possible, I whisper, scanning the article. We haven't sold anything. But there, in the third paragraph, is the knife twist. Legal representation for the property owners is being handled by Wilson and Associates, with junior partner Marcus Wilson spearheading the transactions. My hands shake so badly that coffee sloshes from the pot I'm holding. Excuse me, I manage before retreating to the kitchen. Grandpa, I call out, finding him in the office sorting receipts. Did you know about this? Did you sell the diner? His confusion seems genuine. What? No, of course not. What are you talking about? I thrust the newspaper at him. This Marcus is apparently handling the sale of our building for some development. As Grandpa reads, his face drains of color. There must be some mistake. I never agreed to sell. Did you sign anything recently? Any documents Marcus might have brought by when I wasn't here? A flash of uncertainty crosses his features. He did bring some papers last week, said it was just updating my will and medical directives. I was having a bad day with my medication. Things were a bit fuzzy. Cold dread fills me. Grandpa, we need to find those papers. We spend the next hour tearing apart the office, finally locating a folder tucked beneath a stack of invoices. Inside are legal documents with Grandpa's shaky signature. Not just updated medical directives, but authorization to explore property liquidation options for the diner building. He tricked me, Grandpa whispers, sinking into his chair. My own grandson. The betrayal cuts deep, but there's more. Bank statements show unusual transfers from the diner's business account to a holding company I don't recognize. Marcus has been systematically draining our operating funds for months. I trusted him with the online banking after my eyes got bad. Grandpa admits shame evident in his voice. He said he was just keeping things organized for us. I try calling Marcus repeatedly throughout the day, each call going straight to voicemail. By closing time, I've left 6 increasingly desperate messages. Dr. Thompson stays through the dinner shift, helping me serve the few loyal customers who still came in. You should eat something here, just bringing me a sandwich I haven't touched. You need your strength to fight this. Fight what I say bitterly. My own brother, with what resources? He's the lawyer with power of attorney. Before Ryan can respond, the bell above the door chimes. Marcus strides in alone, this time immaculate in his business attire despite the late hour. We're closed, I say flatly. Not for family, he replies, adjusting his cuffs. I got your messages, all 6 of them. How could you? I demand, anger finally overtaking shock. Going behind our backs, draining the accounts, using Grandpa's medical condition to trick him. Marcus sighs dramatically. I knew you'd be dramatic about this. That's why I handled it quietly. Quietly, there's an announcement in the newspaper. A necessary disclosure once the preliminary agreements were signed, he says dismissively. Amber, you need to grow up and accept progress. This development will revitalize Riverdale. By destroying its heart, this diner has been here for 40 years, and it's been failing for the last 10 he counters. Grandpa can't keep working, his health is deteriorating, and you're wasting your life serving pancakes. The sale will provide enough for his medical care and retirement, with plenty left over for you to finish your degree. I step closer, fury pulsing through me. This isn't about looking out for us. You're making commission on this deal, aren't you? A flicker of discomfort crosses his face before his lawyer mask returns. My firm represents the developer. Of course I'm being compensated for my work. Your work betraying your family, I spit out. My work saving you both from your own stubbornness, he shouts, finally losing his composure. This place is a sinking ship. Grandpa could have another heart attack any day, and then what, you'll be left with nothing but debt and a failing business. We'd still have our dignity and our home, I counter, which is more than I can say for you right now. Marcus straightens his tie, regaining control. The papers are signed. The sale moves forward next month. I suggest you start packing and figuring out your next steps. As he turns to leave, I call after him. Does your precious law firm know you manipulated an elderly man's medication schedule to get his signature? 'Cause I bet the ethics board would find that fascinating. Marcus freezes, then turns back with cold eyes. Don't threaten me, Amber. You're out of your league. After he's gone, I collapse into a booth, the full weight of our situation crashing down on me. Dr. Thompson slides in opposite me, his face serious. For what it's worth, he says quietly, I think your brother just made a critical mistake. Which is, he underestimated how much this community cares about Wilson's Diner, and how much they care about you. For the first time since seeing that newspaper, I feel a tiny spark of hope. Maybe this fight isn't over yet. The following days bring a barrage of formal notices. Zoning change approvals, preliminary construction timelines, and a final sale date just 6 weeks away. Each official letter feels like another nail in the diner's coffin. Grandpa's health visibly deteriorates as the reality of our situation sinks in. His hands shake more, his breathing becomes labored with minimal exertion, and I often find him sitting in the empty diner after hours, running his fingers over the worn countertop like he's memorizing every scratch and stain. This place was supposed to be your inheritance, he tells me one evening, his voice thick with emotion. Your parents would be so disappointed in how things turned out. In Marcus, maybe, I say, sitting beside him. Not in you. Never in you. I should have been more careful. Should have read what I was signing. He deliberately tricked you, Grandpa. This isn't your fault. But the weight of what's happening crushes down on both of us. I try calling Marcus's law firm directly, only to be stonewalled by receptionists who inform me curtly that Mr. Wilson is unavailable for family matters during business hours. In desperation, I drive to Portland to confront him in person, only to be stopped by building security who have apparently been instructed not to let me up. The humiliation of being escorted out of the gleaming high-rise while business people stare burns deep. Meanwhile, the diner's business dwindles further as word spreads about the impending closure. A few loyal customers launch a fundraiser to save Wilson's Diner, but the meager $3.700 they collect is a drop in the bucket compared to what we'd need to challenge the sale legally. We should at least talk to a lawyer, Jerry suggests one slow afternoon. Find out our options. With what money, I reply bitterly. Marcus has made sure we barely have enough to keep the lights on until closing. The worst blow comes when we receive a formal eviction notice giving us 30 days to vacate not just the diner, but also our apartment above it. The developer plans to begin demolition immediately after taking possession. That night, after a day where we served only 8 customers total, I find myself alone in the diner after closing, finally allowing the tears I've been holding back. Hunched over the counter where I've spent so much of my life, I sob for everything we're about to lose. Not just a business, but our home, our history, our connection to my parents' and Grandpa's life's work. The gentle knock at the door startles me. Dr. Thompson, Ryan, stands outside, concern etched on his face. I consider pretending I haven't seen him, but instead find myself unlocking the door. I saw the lights on, he explains. Thought you might need company. What I need is a miracle, I say, wiping my eyes unsuccessfully. Or a really good lawyer who works for free. Ryan sits beside me at the counter. I might not be able to help with the miracle, but I do know something about law. Are you secretly an attorney, I ask, with a watery laugh. Not exactly. But I teach business law part-time at the community college. It's actually my primary job. The clinic is just 3 days a week. This revelation momentarily distracts me from my misery. You're a professor, why didn't you ever say anything? You never asked, he says with a slight smile. Everyone here just calls me Doc and assumes I mean medical doctor. I have a JD and a PhD in economics, but never took the bar exam. Decided I preferred teaching to practicing. So you're saying you understand legal documents, I say, hope flickering faintly. I do. And I'd be happy to look at what your grandfather signed if you'd like. For the first time in weeks, I feel something other than despair. We spend the next 2 hours going through every document, Ryan explaining the legal terminology and identifying several concerning issues. These signatures, he says, examining the papers closely, they're all dated on days your grandfather would have taken his stronger heart medication, correct, the one that makes him drowsy. Yes, I confirm. Marcus knew his schedule. Ryan's expression grows serious. And these funds transfers from the business account, They started small but increased dramatically after he obtained power of attorney. He claimed he was moving money to higher interest accounts, but we never saw any of those statements. Amber, there are multiple ethical violations here, possibly even fraud, Ryan explains. The problem is proving it would require resources you don't currently have. But there might be another approach. Before he can elaborate, my phone rings. It's Jerry calling from the hospital. Grandpa has been admitted with severe chest pains. The next hours pass in a blur of fluorescent lights, antiseptic smells, and the beeping of medical equipment. Ryan drives me to the hospital and stays through the night as doctors stabilize Grandpa. The prognosis is cautiously optimistic, but the cardiologist is clear another major stress event could kill him. Around dawn, I step out of Grandpa's room to get coffee and nearly collide with Sophia Chen looking immaculate despite the early hour. "What are you doing here?" I ask. Too exhausted for politeness. "Marcus sent me to check on his grandfather's condition," she replies coolly. "He's in court today and couldn't come himself." "How considerate," I say bitterly. "Did he ask you to bring the final eviction papers too?" Something flickers across her perfect features. Discomfort, possibly even shame. This is unfortunate timing. Marcus assures me the development deal will provide better healthcare options for Harold. If he survives that long, I retort. The stress of losing everything is what put him here. Sophia adjusts her designer handbag, clearly uncomfortable. "Perhaps if you had managed the business better, it wouldn't be failing now." My exhaustion and fear crystallize into rage. "The business was fine until Marcus started draining our accounts. Did you know that part of his brilliant plan? Or that he deliberately had Grandpa sign papers while medicated? Is that the kind of lawyer you aspire to be, Sophia, one who exploits family members with heart conditions?" Her perfectly composed expression falters. That can't be true. Marcus wouldn't. "Check the dates on the transfer authorizations against Grandpa's prescription schedule," I challenge her. It's all there in black and white. Your boyfriend isn't just heartless, he's potentially committed elder abuse. Sophia takes a step back, genuinely shaken. "I need to go." As she hurries away, Ryan approaches with 2 coffees. "Was that Marcus's girlfriend?" "Yes," I say, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. Probably running to tell him I'm making wild accusations. Ryan hands me a coffee. Or maybe questioning what she's really involved in. Back in Grandpa's room, I hold his frail hand as he sleeps, monitors beeping reassuringly. The sight of him in a hospital bed, diminished and vulnerable, becomes my breaking point. "I can't lose him too," I whisper to Ryan. "And I can't let Marcus take everything he loves away from him." "Then don't," Ryan says simply. "Fight back." "How I'm just a waitress." "Marcus is a partner at a prestigious law firm with all the resources in the world. But he doesn't have what you have," Ryan counters. "Community, truth, and a pretty solid case for legal malpractice and elder exploitation." In that sterile hospital room, watching my grandfather's chest rise and fall, something shifts inside me. The helplessness and despair that have been drowning me recede, replaced by a cold, clear determination. "Enough being the victim," I say, standing up straighter. "If Marcus wants a fight, I'll give him one he never saw coming." The next morning, fueled by determination and hospital vending machine coffee, I make my first strategic move. With Ryan's guidance, I contact Rebecca Hayes, a formidable attorney known for taking on ethical violation cases against larger law firms. Her office is small but respected, located in a modest building that couldn't be more different from Marcus's gleaming high-rise. "Let me get this straight," Rebecca says after hearing my story. She's a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and piercing blue eyes. "Your brother obtained power of attorney while your grandfather was hospitalized, then used it to authorize property sales without full disclosure, all while systematically moving funds from the business account." Yes, I confirm, sliding across the documents Ryan helped me organize, and he deliberately brought papers for signing on days when Grandpa was heavily medicated. Rebecca reviews the evidence, occasionally making notes or asking clarifying questions. Finally, she looks up with a determined expression. "I'll take the case," she announces. "Not just because it has merit, but because what your brother did is exactly the kind of unethical behavior that gives lawyers a bad name. I should warn you. I can't pay much up front, I admit." "We'll work on contingency," she replies. "If we win, my fees come from the settlement. If we lose, you pay nothing beyond filing costs." As Rebecca begins drafting an emergency injunction to halt the sale, I launch the second phase of our plan. With Ryan's help, I create an online petition detailing Wilson Diner's significance to Riverdale and the dubious circumstances of its impending closure. People need to understand this isn't just about one family business, Ryan explains as we craft the message. It's about community institutions being sacrificed for outside development interests. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Signatures flood in, accompanied by heartfelt comments about birthday, celebrations, first dates, and family traditions centered around the diner. Local news picks up the story, and by evening, a reporter is interviewing me at Grandpa's hospital bedside. This diner has been serving Riverdale for 40 years, I tell the camera, Grandpa's hand clasped firmly in mine. It's where generations have gathered to share meals and memories. We're not opposed to progress, but we are opposed to predatory practices that take advantage of elderly business owners. The reporter, sensing a compelling angle, asks, "And your brother is the attorney facilitating this sale?" I take a deep breath, knowing my next words will burn the last bridge between us. My brother appears to have used his legal knowledge and his relationship with our grandfather to orchestrate this deal for his own financial benefit, taking advantage of my grandfather's medical condition to secure signatures on documents my grandfather didn't fully understand. The story airs that night, and by morning, Wilson's Diner is packed with supporters, many wearing hastily made Save Wilson's t-shirts. The Henderson sisters organize a letter-writing campaign to the city council, while Mr. Jenkins, a former banker, helps me comb through financial records for additional evidence of impropriety. "Your brother's been sloppy," Mr. Jenkins comments, pointing to a series of transfers. He was clearly counting on nobody looking too closely at these. Meanwhile, Rebecca discovers that Marcus failed to disclose his family relationship to the property owner in formal filings with the development company, a serious ethical breach in itself. "We have enough to file for an emergency hearing," she informs me 3 days later. "The judge has agreed to see us tomorrow morning." That afternoon, as I'm serving our suddenly bustling lunch crowd, I receive a text from an unknown number. Marcus is coming to the diner. He's furious about the news story. "Be careful." Minutes later, Marcus's SUV screeches into the parking lot. He storms in, face contorted with rage, oblivious to the dining room full of customers. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he demands, slamming his hands on the counter. "Defaming me on local television, filing frivolous legal complaints." The diner falls silent, all eyes on our confrontation. "I'm protecting our family legacy," I reply calmly, continuing to pour coffee for a customer. "Something you should understand, counselor. You have no idea what you've done," Marcus hisses, lowering his voice but not his intensity. "My firm is furious. The ethics committee is asking questions. Sophia is threatening to break up with me." "How unfortunate for you," I say, meeting his gaze steadily. "Almost as unfortunate as tricking our grandfather into signing away his life's work while he was medicated." Marcus's face flushes dark red. "You're out of your depth, Amber. I'm trying to secure Grandpa's future. And yours. The money from this sale would set you both up for life." "After your substantial commission, you mean?" I counter. "And what about all those mysterious transfers from the diner's accounts? Were those for our benefit too?" A flicker of panic crosses his features. "Those were legitimate business expenses." "Funny, we can't seem to find any record of where that money actually went," I say, aware of our audience. "But I'm sure you'll be happy to explain that to the judge tomorrow morning." Marcus steps closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Drop this now, or I promise you'll regret it. I have resources you can't imagine." "So do I reply, gesturing around at the packed diner. "They're called friends, community, and the truth. When was the last time you had any of those?" As if on cue, Ryan walks in, accompanied by a woman who looks strikingly similar to him. "Amber, this is my sister, Jessica Thompson. She's a reporter with the Portland Press-Herald and is very interested in this story of alleged elder exploitation by a junior partner at Wilson & Associates." Marcus blanches visibly. "This conversation is over," he snaps, backing toward the door. "I'll see you in court." As he storms out to his SUV, I notice several customers recording the encounter on their phones. By evening, clips of Marcus's threatening behavior are circulating on social media, further galvanizing public support. That night, as I'm closing up, I receive an unexpected call from Sophia. "I found the records," she says without preamble. "Marcus has been moving diner funds to a personal account. It's all documented in his private files at the firm." My heart races. "Sophia, why are you telling me this?" There's a long pause before she answers. because my parents lost their restaurant in San Francisco to a similar development scheme. I didn't know the full story until today. I can't be part of this. We have a court hearing tomorrow morning, I tell her. Your testimony could make all the difference. Another pause. I'll be there. As I hang up, Ryan looks at me questioningly. We just got our star witness, I explain, allowing myself to feel genuine hope for the first time in weeks. Rebecca calls moments later with more good news. The judge has issued a temporary freeze on all transactions related to the property pending tomorrow's hearing. Your brother can't move forward with anything until we've had our day in court. As I look around the diner that night, at the worn booths that have held countless celebrations, the counter where I learned to pour coffee under my mother's guidance, the kitchen where Grandpa taught me to flip pancakes just right, I make a silent promise. We're going to win this, I tell Ryan as he helps me stack chairs. I can feel it. Even if you don't, he replies thoughtfully, you've already won something important. What's that? You found your voice, he says simply. And nobody, not even Marcus, can take that away from you. The county courthouse is packed the next morning. It seems like half of Riverdale has shown up to support us, many wearing Save Wilson's buttons hastily produced by the high school art department. Grandpa, released from the hospital on strict orders to avoid stress, sits beside me in a wheelchair holding my hand tightly. Marcus arrives with a senior partner from his firm, both looking grim as they notice the crowd. Sophia sits apart from them, avoiding Marcus's attempts to catch her eye. Judge Eleanor Watkins, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, calls the hearing to order. This is an unusual case, she begins. Typically, property disputes don't generate this level of community interest. Rebecca presents our case, first methodically outlining the timeline of Marcus's actions obtaining power of attorney during Grandpa's hospitalization, the systematic transfer of funds from diner accounts, and the suspicious timing of document signings coinciding with Grandpa's medication schedule. Your Honor, this isn't merely a business dispute, Rebecca argues. This is a clear case of a lawyer exploiting a family relationship and an elderly man's medical vulnerability for personal financial gain. Marcus's senior partner, a polished man named Richard Garrison, dismisses our claims as emotional reactions to necessary business decisions. The diner has been failing for years, he asserts smoothly. Mr. Wilson is simply ensuring his grandfather's financial security by facilitating a sale that will provide for his retirement and healthcare needs. The judge turns to Marcus. Mr. Wilson, did you disclose your familial relationship to the property owner when representing the developer? Marcus shifts uncomfortably. I did not think it was relevant to the transaction, Your Honor. And these financial transfers, the judge continues holding up bank statements. Can you explain why diner funds were moved to a personal account under your control? Those were temporary holdings to maximize interest returns, Marcus claims. All perfectly legal under my power of attorney authorization. Just as Garrison begins to redirect the conversation, the courtroom doors open. Sophia Chen walks forward carrying a file folder. Your Honor, she says, clearly I have evidence relevant to this case. Marcus half rises from his seat. Sophia, what are you doing? The judge silences him with a look. You are Sophia Chen, associate attorney at Wilson & Associates. I work directly with Marcus Wilson on the development project in question. What follows is devastating testimony. Sophia presents internal emails showing Marcus had identified Wilson's diner as a potential acquisition target months before obtaining power of attorney. She produces documents proving he had negotiated his commission with the developer long before approaching Grandpa about selling. Most damning of all, she presents a recorded conversation between Marcus and the developer's CEO, where Marcus explicitly states, "My grandfather doesn't understand the value of the property. With his health issues and medication, I can handle the paperwork without much scrutiny." The courtroom erupts in murmurs. Marcus stares at Sophia in open-mouthed betrayal while Garrison frantically whispers to him. Judge Watkins calls for order. Based on the evidence presented, I'm issuing an immediate injunction halting any sale or development of the property in question. Furthermore, I'm revoking Mr. Marcus Wilson's power of attorney effective immediately. She fixes Marcus with a stern look. Mr. Wilson, I'm referring this matter to the State Bar Association's Ethics Committee for further investigation. Your conduct appears to violate multiple rules of professional responsibility. After the hearing adjourns, we exit to find reporters waiting. While Rebecca handles the press, I find myself face to face with Marcus in the courthouse corridor. How could you do this? He demands, his voice hollow with shock. You've destroyed my career. I didn't destroy anything, Marcus, I reply calmly. You did that yourself. For a moment, his lawyer mask crumbles completely, and I see something I haven't seen since we were children. Vulnerability. You don't understand, he says, his voice suddenly unsteady. I was trying to fix things. Grandpa always favored you, always said you were the one who understood the diner, understood people. I was never good enough. The revelation stuns me. That's not true. He's always been proud of you. For what my fancy degree, my car, he talks about you like you hung the moon, Amber. Your sister has her mother's heart, he always said. Marcus's voice breaks. I just wanted to prove I could take care of him too. Better than a failing diner ever could. For the first time, I see my brother not as the villain in my story, but as someone fighting his own battles, however misguided his methods. The diner isn't failing, Marcus, I tell him gently. It's struggling like many small businesses, but it's still the heart of Riverdale. Still Grandpa's legacy, and Mom and Dad's. Before Marcus can respond, Sophia approaches. It's over, Marcus. The firm wants you to clean out your desk. They're distancing themselves completely. His face crumples. You betrayed me too. No, she corrects him. I chose integrity over complicity. There's a difference. As Sophia walks away, I see something shift in my brother's expression. The beginning of understanding the true cost of his actions. Outside, Grandpa waits with Ryan, surrounded by well-wishers from town. What happens now, Grandpa asks as I join them. Now we rebuild, I reply, looking out at the community that rallied around us. Together. In the weeks that follow, Wilson's Diner experiences a renaissance. The publicity from our court battle brings curious visitors from neighboring towns, and our regulars return in force. Ryan, true to his word, helps me develop a business plan that honors the diner's traditions while introducing modern touches to increase profitability. What about adding evening hours 3 nights a week, he suggests, one night, as we review spreadsheets. Nothing fancy, just comfort food and maybe local musicians on weekends. That could work, I agree, warming to the idea. And maybe a small section of the menu featuring seasonal specials using local produce. Grandpa Health improving with reduced stress becomes the diner's beloved ambassador, telling stories of its history to enthralled customers while I manage day-to-day operations. 6 months after the court hearing, we host a community celebration for the diner's rebirth. The place is packed strings of lights, adding a festive glow to the familiar space. I'm running between tables when I spot an unexpected figure at the door. Marcus stands awkwardly in a casual sweater instead of his usual suit, looking uncertain until Grandpa notices him and waves him over. Didn't think you'd come, I say when he approaches the counter. Wasn't sure I'd be welcome, he admits. Family is always welcome here, Grandpa says, firmly pulling him into a hug. Over dessert, Marcus tells us he's taken a position with the county's legal aid office, helping seniors navigate property issues and financial protections. The pay is about 1/5 of what I made before, he says with a self-deprecating smile. But it turns out there's more to life than a corner office and an expensive car. Speaking of cars, I venture cautiously what happened to the SUV. Sold it, he replies. Needed the money for rent on my very modest apartment. Turns out law firms don't provide references when you're under ethics investigation. There's an awkward pause before I ask, how are you really doing, Marcus? He considers the question seriously. Learning. Growing. Figuring out who I am without all the trappings of success I thought I needed. He glances at Grandpa. Trying to be someone you could actually be proud of. I've always been proud of both my grandchildren, Grandpa says, his eyes misting. Just proud of different things. As the celebration continues around us, Ryan joins our table, placing a stack of papers before me. What's this? I ask, flipping through what appears to be a book proposal. Your story, he explains. Wilson's Diner Recipes and Remembrances. Part cookbook, part memoir. Publishers are interested, Amber. Really interested. I stare at him in disbelief. You're serious? Deadly, he grins. Turns out I know people in publishing from my academic days. Your English degree might finally get some use. Later that evening, as the crowd thins and the sky darkens outside the diner windows, I find myself behind the counter watching Grandpa doze contentedly in his favorite booth, while Ryan helps Jerry clean up the kitchen. Marcus is sitting with the Henderson sisters, genuinely listening to their stories about Riverdale's history. This moment, this imperfect, beautiful moment, feels like the culmination of everything we've fought for. Not just saving a building, but preserving a community hub where real human connections happen over coffee and pie. The diner isn't just Grandpa's legacy anymore. It's becoming mine too, but on my terms. A choice rather than an obligation, a passion rather than a duty. As I wipe down the counter that has supported thousands of elbows, millions of conversations, and countless cups of coffee over 4 decades, I realize I've found something Marcus spent years chasing in all the wrong places: success. Defined not by wealth or status, but by integrity, purpose, and love. 6 months later, Wilson's Diner hums with the pleasant buzz of a Friday evening crowd. The addition of dinner service 3 nights a week has been so successful we're considering expanding to 5. The subtle renovation Ryan helped me design, preserving the diner's vintage charm while updating critical infrastructure, has breathed new life into the space without sacrificing its soul. Table 7 needs more napkins, calls Jerry, now our evening shift manager, alongside his morning grill duties. The raise I was finally able to give him means he no longer needs his second job at the gas station. I navigate between tables, stopping to chat with regulars and welcome newcomers. My role has evolved. I'm still a waitress when needed, but now I'm also the owner-operator who makes business decisions, creates seasonal menu specials, and occasionally signs books. Wilson's Diner, Recipes and Remembrances, sits proudly near the register, its cover, featuring a photograph of Grandpa and me behind the counter. The modest advance from the publisher funded our kitchen renovation, and the unexpected success, regional bestseller status and features in several food magazines, has brought curious visitors from across New England. Grandpa, looking healthier than he has in years, holds court in his corner booth, regaling customers with stories from the diner's early days. His medical management plan, developed with specialists we can now afford, has stabilized his condition remarkably. "Tell them about the blizzard of '87, I hear him saying to an enthralled young couple. "Power out for 3 days, but we stayed open with camp stoves and lanterns. Only hot meals in town." Ryan arrives as the dinner rush begins to slow, carrying a stack of midterm papers to grade. Over the past months, our professional partnership has blossomed into something more personal, a relationship built on mutual respect, shared values, and the kind of genuine understanding that can only come from weathering a storm together. "How's the chapter coming?" he asks, kissing my cheek before settling into what's become his booth by the window. "Finished it this morning," I reply, pouring his usual coffee. "The publisher wants to move up the release date for the second book. Apparently, family business narratives are having a moment. The success of my cookbook memoir has led to a contract for a second book focused more directly on small business resilience and community economics, topics I've become passionate about through our experience. Ryan's academic background has been invaluable in helping me frame the economic arguments, while my storytelling brings the human element to life. The bell above the door chimes and Marcus enters, accompanied by an elderly gentleman I recognize as his client from the legal aid office. Gone is the designer wardrobe and slick appearance. My brother now favors casual button-downs and actually smiles at people without calculating what they can do for him. Just in time, I call out, "Your usual booth is open." The transformation in Marcus has been the most unexpected development of all. After the professional disgrace and Sophia's departure, she's now working for a nonprofit environmental law center. He hit rock bottom. But instead of clawing his way back to his former life, he chose a different path, using his legal skills to help vulnerable seniors avoid the very kind of exploitation he once facilitated. Once a month, he volunteers at Wilson's waiting tables during our busiest shift and donating all his tips to the local senior center. It was awkward at first, but the community has gradually embraced his redemption story. "How's the pro bono case going?" I ask, bringing waters to their table. "Court date next week," Marcus replies. "Mr. Feldman here was almost scammed out of his pension by his own nephew." Sound familiar? There's no bitterness in his self-deprecating joke, just acknowledgement of how far he's come. "Your brother's a good lawyer," Mr. Feldman tells me proudly, "explains everything so I can understand it." No fancy words to confuse an old man. After they order, I return to the counter where Grandpa has relocated with his photo album. "Found this in the storage room yesterday," he says, pointing to a faded photograph of my parents on opening day of the diner. "Your mother would be so proud of what you've accomplished, Sunshine." What we've accomplished, I correct him gently. This place has always been a team effort. Speaking of teams, Grandpa says with a mischievous twinkle, when are you and the professor going to make things official? Not getting any younger here, you know. Grandpa, I laugh, feeling my cheeks warm. We're taking things slow. But my eyes drift to Ryan, head bent over his students' papers, and I can't help imagining a future together. Perhaps an apartment of our own while still keeping Grandpa close, maybe even children someday who would grow up learning the diner's rhythms just as I did. Later, after closing the four of us, Grandpa, Marcus, Ryan, and I sit in a booth sharing pie and reflecting on the journey that brought us here. I never thought I'd say this, Marcus admits, but I'm actually happier now than when I was making six figures. I sleep better. That's what happens when you align your actions with your values, Ryan observes. The research on happiness consistently shows. Oh no, he's going into professor mode, I tease, nudging him playfully. Fine, I'll spare you the lecture, Ryan laughs. But my point stands. You all found authenticity through this struggle. And each other, Grandpa adds softly. We found our way back to being a family. As we clean up and prepare to head upstairs, I pause at the diner's large front window. The neon Wilson sign casts a warm glow on the empty street outside, just as it has for over 40 years. But now it represents something more. Not just a family legacy, but a community cornerstone that weathered a storm and emerged stronger. The journey from resentful waitress to proud owner wasn't what I expected when I put my own dreams on hold to help Grandpa. But sometimes the path we resist holds the very purpose we're seeking, if we're brave enough to embrace it and make it our own. In the morning, I'll don my apron again, serve coffee to sleepy customers, and continue building something meaningful. Not because I have to, but because I choose to. And in that choice lies all the difference. Life, like the perfect diner breakfast, isn't about fancy ingredients or complicated techniques. It's about simple elements prepared with care, served with love, and shared with the people who matter most. That's a lesson worth waiting tables for. Before I turn away from the window, I catch my reflection in the glass. Not just a waitress, not just a granddaughter, but a woman who found her strength by staying when it would have been easier to leave. A woman who discovered that sometimes the most courageous thing isn't walking away from difficulties, but walking toward them with an open heart and steady hands. If you're watching this journey of mine and found something that resonates with your own story, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Have you ever had to fight for something that mattered to your family or community, or found your purpose in an unexpected place? Share your experience. Subscribe if you want to see more stories like this. And don't forget to like this video if it touched your heart. Thank you for being part of our extended Wilson's Diner family, and remember that sometimes the greatest success stories happen in the most ordinary places. Until next time, may your coffee be hot and your connections be genuine.